the hate crime laws passing the House. My colleague Cam Reddin here in the studio. Cam, you've also got some other developing news?
I do, Kieran. I can tell you in that particular vote on the hate crimes bill in the House, 2 members of the National Party did cross the floor to oppose it, those being Colin Boyce from Queensland, also Lou O'Brien, the member for Wide Bay. And this statement just in from the leader of the Nationals, we can expect potentially to hear from him and also Sussan Ley after question time. This statement says that the Nationals party room, which met again today, has been meeting to discuss amendments to provide greater certainty around unintended consequences of the hate group legislation reforms, those ones that just passed the House. Unfortunately, there is not enough time before the vote in the House of Representatives to get this certainty. That is on a Nationals position. And he says, David Littleproud, therefore, the Nationals' position is to abstain from voting in the House of Representatives so that we can forward amendments to the bill to the Senate to fix these issues. So despite that statement, we saw on the register 2 members oppose, those being Colin Boyce and Lou O'Brien. I think the takeaway from that, Kieran, is now they're going to look to see what happens in the Senate to try and fix these issues, in the words of David Littleproud, to see if there's any way they can keep the National and Liberal parties on the same page when it comes to a vote later. And that's why we're now looking at the House coming back again tomorrow to see if there are any additional measures that need to be ticked off in the House once they're added in the Senate.
But even despite those moves, there were 2 members that crossed the floor already.
That's right. So he says the official position was to abstain in the vote in the House of Representatives, but the ledger, as has just been put in the House, shows 2 members of the Nationals opposing that bill. And we've seen members of the Liberal Party in the Senate, both Jacinta Nampijinpa Price and Alex Antic, indicate that when it goes to a vote later today, they will likely oppose the bill as well, regardless of what the formal party positions are. So I'm told we'll hear from Sussan Ley after question time. Kieran, of course, that's only 90 seconds away, so she will perhaps give a greater indication here. But there was no joint party room this morning. There is no united front from the Liberal and National leadership on this bill. There have been discussions going on all day, 6 party room meetings for the Nationals since Friday, which goes to the point of how difficult it's been to come to a consensus on these laws.
Indeed, but the vast majority of the coalition, well, certainly the Liberal Party at least, on board with that passing just now through the House of Representatives.
Absolutely, and that's why we've seen that support in the House there. And at the end of the day, Kieran, this will pass the Parliament because there are enough Liberals, given what was agreed with the government last night, to get it through both houses. The question really is how big will the splinter be? And that other asterisk too of 3 members of the shadow cabinet sitting in the National Party in the Senate. Now, you just cannot have, under shadow cabinet rules, some voting one way and others voting another. And if the Liberal shadow cabinet is on board, it just doesn't, the rules don't allow, Kieran, for some members of shadow cabinet in the Nats to vote another way. So that is the nub of where the negotiations are at the moment. We'll see question time now and hear more from the leaders we expect.
Yeah, indeed. First question time of the year. An unusual week in the sense that we just have a couple of sitting days, as you alluded to. A quick sitting again tomorrow, by the sounds of it, to vote on that legislation as it goes back to the House, because if it's amended by the Senate, it has to go back to the House for a vote as well to tick that off. But today we know what issue is going to dominate, and obviously it follows on from the condolences of yesterday, a very powerful day.
Absolutely. We can expect there to be a lot of mentions of the Royal Commission and the initial resistance from the government to that, Kieran, and on the broader discussions too on these laws. One senior Labor source said to me today that this whole way that it's played out with the Liberals and Nationals dents some of the negotiating certainty, because they might go into a room with Sussan Ley, as they did yesterday, and essentially get a deal, but not all members of the parties are going to follow what is agreed in that room. And that is a concern the government now has, and it's certainly another problem for Sussan Ley and her leadership.
Yesterday there was a lot of, obviously, politics put to one side, a lot of grief, the tributes paid to the lives lost to the victims of that anti-Semitic terrorist attack. A few pointed remarks in terms of the Jewish community deserves an apology on the delay in calling a Royal Commission. That was from Sussan Ley. Also that the Jewish community yearns for leadership, essentially, was the message from Julie and Lisa as well. So there were some references to the politics that are the backdrop to this issue, and that's going to be very much front and centre when question time kicks off, you would imagine, on a range of issues, not the least of which the the Royal Commission and the delay in calling that.
That's right, Kieran. I do just want to bring your viewers part of a statement that I've now received from Sussan Ley, the opposition leader. It is a lengthy one and we are standing by for question time to begin as well. But I want to read part of this from Sussan Ley. She says, in the national interest, the Liberal Party has today stepped up to fix legislation that the Albanese government has mishandled. She says for more than 2 years, the government failed to confront the rising tide of anti-Semitism. And she goes on to say that after months of exclusion and arrogance, the Prime Minister was forced to come to the Liberal Party to fix legislation he could not draft properly nor deliver alone. From the outset, we said we'd be constructive, and we have been. As a result of Liberal Party action, the legislation has been narrowed, strengthened and properly focused. She then lists a number of the changes which have all been fleshed out that the Liberal Party has agreed to. This statement from Sussan Ley goes on to say that the Liberal Party will always defend freedom of thought, freedom of worship, freedom of speech. And she says that as a direct result of the Liberal Party's veto, Labor's attempt to criminalise free speech is no more. She's claiming this, Kieran, as a victory for the Liberal Party in negotiations, and from what I can see, not a single mention of the National Party. And that's the way that this has been talked about privately to me by senior Liberal sources, that they view this as a Liberal Party operation to get the deal, and whether the National Party came along for the ride was viewed internally as optional. And as we can see today, the National Party still with no formal position after yet another lengthy party room meeting today. So very much operating as two separate wings of the coalition, Kieran, at the moment.
Indeed, Cam, thank you. As